Next, in the peripheral nervous system, we see the autonomic nervous system, that is the involuntary system, which has a crucial role in maintaining the fine tuning of the body's internal environment. Basically, it is an auto-functioning and self-governed nervous system that is not under the conscious control of CNS, but it is the neurotransmitters which are involved in it, which play an important role. And we study this autonomic nervous system in two broad classifications. One is sympathetic and other is parasympathetic. Now, from the name you can understand for the learning purpose that one is sympathetic towards one action of the body, that is again involuntary, I am saying time and again, and other is non-sympathetic basically. So, we have first of all the key functions of this autonomic nervous system, that it is an auto-functioning and self-governed system which helps in fine-tuning of body's internal environment, so that a body stays in a constant state of control and homeostatic activities, and rest of the visceral organ activities which are conducted not under our conscious control, they are conducted in a very smooth way. And how does it function? It functions again with the help of feedback loops and antagonistic control, which are not under the CNS direct control. Conscious control of CNS is not involved because there are feedback loops and antagonistic control. Now, when I use the term feedback loops, it means if something has increased, automatically there would be a feedback mechanism which would be occurring, so that would stimulate the CNS to release something which would lower down whichever thing has increased. Again, I am repeating because thing might have confused you a bit. Like supposedly in the body there is an amount of hormone which has increased, that hormone itself would send a feedback to the brain, so that whatever component is stimulating the release of that hormone, that is lowered down, so that that hormone content also gets lowered. So that is basically how the feedback loops work. And there is an antagonistic control which is conducted by the sympathetic and parasympathetic systems, which is basically conducted by the hormones known as adrenaline and noradrenaline, which are secreted by the adrenal gland. Now, there are two separate output systems, one is sympathetic, other is parasympathetic. Supposedly you go outside in the sun and there is there is a contraction of the pupil that takes place, and whenever you come inside from the sun, you are not able to see the things clearly because it appears quite dark. So whatever has brought that contraction of pupil, there would be something which would bring back dilation of the pupil. It would take some time. So basically, if the sympathetic system is responsible for the lowering of the radius of the pupil inside your eye, the parasympathetic system would bring back the eye's pupil's diameter to the same situation as it was in the beginning. So if one is highering the blood pressure, the other one would be responsible for lowering the blood pressure. So there are the two separate output systems. Apart from these output systems which are different, there are two different types of neurons. One is myelinated preganglionic neuron, and other are, these are quite few, and these unmyelinated postganglionic neuron, they are many, they are numerous, several of them. This myelinated preganglionic neuron, it goes and joins and synapses, basically, synapse would be the better term. It synapses with many unmyelinated neurons which are in contact with the target organs, because we are talking about the peripheral nervous system which is in contact with the central nervous system. So we will have the central nervous system nerves which would be arising from there, and they would innervating some target organ. So when the nerves, they originate from the CNS, they come and join at a state condition or at a place known as ganglion. So the neurons which are present before the ganglion has come, they would be myelinated and they would be preganglionic. Supposedly, I'll just represent it in a cartoon representation. Suppose this is a ganglion, this is the central nervous system again. From here the myelinated preganglionic neuron is arising, and over here we have the target organ. Okay, so this happens to be the ganglion in the case of spinal nerves or the cranial nerves. Now this happens to be ganglion which could be sensory. Usually it is sensory ganglion only, it is not the motor neurons are, motor roots are present, motor ganglions are not present. So this preganglionic nerve fiber is myelinated, while there are many non-myelinated neurons or the nerves which arise from the ganglion and they innervate the target organ. Now, depending on this basic phenomena only, that how this how much is the distance where this ganglion lies, whether it is in close proximity of the central nervous system or it is in the close proximity of the target organ. We have two different systems, separate output systems as we talk. But before that, there are two terms that you have to remember, then that is white ramus communicans and grey ramus communicans. Now, this part, it comes in contact with spinal cord, and this is spinal nerve. Now, what is the spinal cord and spinal nerve? Basically, as the name suggests, this is communicans. It is the nerve fiber that connects the ganglion with the spinal cord. That part is known as white ramus communicans, and that part of the nerve which connects the spinal nerve to the ganglion, that is known as grey ramus communicans. These two terms you have to remember. Now, supposedly over here in the CNS, we are talking about the spinal cord. So, this part which connects it with the ganglion, that is connecting the spinal cord with the ganglion, that would be white ramus communicans, and that which would be connecting it with the spinal nerve, basically this part, that would be this is the spinal nerve that is arising from here. So, this part would be white ramus communicans, grey ramus communicans. This you have to remember, that one connects with the spinal cord, other connects with the spinal nerve. Now, coming on the output mechanisms, what is the basic difference? Now, before you understand the basic difference, remember that one is known as craniosacral outflow and other is known as thoracolumbar outflow. Now, this thoraco originates from thoracic, this is lumbar. These are going to be something which are associated with the spinal vertebral names, that is thoracic spinal nerves and lumbar spinal nerves. This has to do with the cranial nerves and the sacral nerves. So, when we talk about sympathetic nervous system, now again you have this, because this is thoracolumbar, consider it that this is the thoracic part and then we have lumbar spinal cord like this, thoracic region and lumbar region like this. What we are going to have is the nerves which arise from here, the ganglions which are present, they would be in close proximity to the spinal cord. This would be thoracic, this would be lumbar, this is the spinal cord I have tried to represent basically. So, these ganglions, the preganglionic neurons, they are quite short and the postganglionic ones are longer, alright, which innervate the target organ. So, in this, this would be target organ, considering the target organs can vary. This can innervate the stomach, this can innervate the intestine, but you see these are the ganglions. This part is preganglionic neuron which is quite short, and the postganglionic neurons which are unmyelinated fibers, they are quite long. Now, in the case of parasympathetic nervous system, suppose this is the cranium like this. Okay, and this is the sacral part, this is the cranial part. From cranial part, what is going to be different over here? I would represent it in a different way. This happens to be the cranium, this happens to be the spinal cord. Here we come to the sacral region, this is the sacral region, this is the cranial region. What happens is that the preganglionic nerve fiber is quite long and the postganglionic is shorter, and the ganglion lies in close proximity with the target organs, as you can see over here. These are the neuron fibers, there lies the ganglion, this is the preganglionic part. Now, the postganglionic part is quite smaller, as you can see over here. This is the main difference between the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, which is the functional output system of the autonomic nervous system. Now, where the difference lies, how this is working antagonistic to each other. Now, in this case, what you have is that in the ganglion, the neurotransmitter that lies is acetylcholine. Alright. At the target organ, the neurotransmitter which lies in the synapse happens to be either adrenaline or noradrenaline. Now you know that adrenaline and noradrenaline, they are opposite and antagonistic to each other. Adrenaline and noradrenaline, that is epinephrine and norepinephrine released from the adrenal medulla, they have opposite actions. One is responsible for creating conditions which cause the hormone of flight action, and other is responsible for bringing back the body to the entire condition which was present earlier before the stress came. So basically at this point, at this particular point, which is the ganglion, you are going to have acetylcholine, alright, that is the neurotransmitter that is present. Same would be in this case, okay. Over here again it would be acetylcholine. Only difference would be that at these synapses also, the parasympathetic system, it is going to have the acetylcholine as the neurotransmitter, main neurotransmitter. But in case of sympathetic nervous system, the neurotransmitter over here would vary accordingly. Either it could be adrenaline or it could be noradrenaline. So we have adrenaline and noradrenaline also which come into the scenario, and that plays an important role in deciding the function of the nervous system. Now supposedly one of the neurons is bringing about, some sympathetic nervous system for instance brings about the dilation, the other would bring about contraction. Basically this system has a direct contact with the target organs, so this has more of the motor functions. This is more in the contact of, no, this is, I'm sorry, I've used the wrong terms. In the case of parasympathetic system, because it is in close proximity to the target organs, the function would be primarily sensory, not exclusively sensory, but it would be sensory. That means the sensory signals would be taken up. In the case of sympathetic nervous system, because this is the central nervous system and the target organs are over here, this is in the ganglions lie over here, it would be more motor in function. That you have to remember, that the signals whichever the central nervous system has to innervate whatever target organs, more of the functions would be carried out by the sympathetic nervous system and the remaining would be brought about by the parasympathetic nervous system, which gives it a condition where the auto functioning needs the stimulus as well. So the self-governing part would be carried out by the both, but for self-governing also there needs to be a condition created inside the brain, or the processing that has to take place. It needs to be provided with the raw data that is to be taken from various stimuli, and those stimuli would be perceived by the parasympathetic nervous system. In response, whatever antagonistic reactions are to be brought about, or whatever antagonistic functioning of the brain that is to be carried out, that would be carried out by sympathetic nervous system along with parasympathetic nervous system, and the fine tuning of the body functions would be carried out in this way by both these systems taking part with each other in the autonomous nervous